Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video where we discuss a video game that hasn't released yet and pray that it can deliver to us a fulfilling experience. Now, as some of you are probably aware, there's been a bit of controversy going on in the Ashes of Creations community lately. First, Josh Strife Hayes gave his opinion on Ashes of Creation, and then Lucky Ghost made a video talking about the PvP experience and the corruption system. Now, having an opinion is not inherently negative. However, these two dared to give constructive criticism about the game, so of course the community ate them alive for it. Now, the video that Lucky Ghost released is what I want to focus on for now. Now, I had planned on avoiding more discussion on PvP until after Alpha 2 released, since we haven't actually seen the system in action yet. We're all just speculating on how effective it's going to be. However, since the community is already all up in arms about it, I figure I might as well throw some more fuel on that fire. Now, Lucky Ghost's video was very well done. If you haven't seen it already, I'll put a link in the description below. I highly suggest you go check it out. For the purposes of this video, I will try to summarize the whole thing into a couple of points. So the first point is that the corruption system is the same as Lineage 2's corruption system. The second point is that the corruption system will not do enough to dissuade griefers. Now, many people, including Steven Shreve himself, have already corrected the first point. While the corruption system is very similar to Lineage 2, it's not the same. If only barely. After hearing that he mistakenly believes that the corruption system is a one-to-one copy, most people completely disregard his second point, that the corruption system will not do enough to dissuade griefers. But the problem is, that point might still be valid. Now, I don't believe that anybody has a problem with the PvP events that are going to take place in the world. The sieges, the caravans, the arenas, etc. I think everyone's pretty equally excited about those systems. They have well-defined boundaries, and while highly incentivized, are optional. You don't have to participate. The controversy always surrounds the open world PvP. Now, anybody that has played an open world PvP game in the past probably has an idea of what to expect. Griefers. Griefers are players that harass other players with the purpose of ruining their enjoyment. And the developers have the monumental task of trying to protect the player base from griefers while also not interfering with the core principles and the core pillars of the game. And that cannot be understated. Open world PvP is a core pillar of Ashes of Creation. Combat is meant to be meaningful and impactful on the world. Open world PvP is what will make gathering and exploring fulfilling, for instance, because it's not guaranteed. If you want to go gather that rare mineral that just spawned, you better stay strapped or you might get clapped. And not only does this provide another gameplay loop to help the game from getting dull quickly, but it also means that the resources themselves will have value, because there's risk involved in getting them. They'll be scarcer, they'll be more important, which will be good for the longevity of the game and for the economy. In other MMOs, you can run around mindlessly, gather 1 million ore to level up your stats, but to what end? Not only is that incredibly dull gameplay, but you can find thousands of players on your server that have leveled all the same skills you have, that can gather all the same resources, that can build all the same stuff, so who really cares? Now, that's just one example, but the point is that Ashes of Creation relies on open world PvP, both the gameplay loop and the economy. So the solution to griefers being that we separate servers or content by PvP and PvE, it can't work. The content is too intertwined. Any proposed solution to griefers would have to be focused on the corruption system, the motivations, and the punishments for open world PvP. Now, before I get into this, I am fully on board with giving the current corruption system a chance. After all, we haven't even seen it in action yet. There's a world where the corruption system launches as it is now, it works wonderfully, and we all wasted our time arguing and listening to videos on opinions. In the event that the corruption system doesn't work, however, it's good for the community to be discussing things like this so that the developers know where we stand on the issue. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, the corruption system, as it is currently stated, is based on a flagging and corruption system. Now, the flagging system determines how much corruption is gained from a PvP battle. So as you can see, there are 3 flags: non-combatant, combatant, and corrupted. All players start as non-combatants, green. Now, attacking a non-combatant player will flag you as a combatant. And if a combatant player kills a non-combatant player, they will then be corrupted. So becoming a combatant and possibly getting corrupted is a choice that the other player makes by attacking you. The good news is you get your own choice. You can choose to not fight back, which will keep you flagged as a non-combatant player and cause the enemy player to become corrupted, punishing them for killing you. Or you can fight back and become a combatant yourself. Now this is where we start getting into the weeds, so if you're interested and you don't know yet, I highly recommend going to the wiki. They do a great job keeping all this information up to date. Now, dying comes with it certain penalties, and what you're flagged at upon death changes the degree to which you suffer said penalties. Now these are experience debt, skill and stat dampening, lower health and mana pools, lower gear proficiency, reduction in drop rates from monsters, and durability loss on your equipment. Now, dying as a non-combatant will give you all of those penalties at a normal rate, called 100%. Dying as a combatant gives you those penalties at half the rate, and dying as a corrupted gives you those penalties at 4 times the rate. And you get a few bonus prizes, which includes a chance to drop your equipped items on death, and dampening your skills and abilities' effectiveness against other players. Maybe prizes isn't the right word. So you, the victim, are incentivized to fight back to avoid harsher penalties for yourself. But if you want to screw over the attacker, or you don't care about the penalties that you're going to get, just accept your death and cause the enemy to become corrupted. Now, the icing on the cake for corrupted players is that cleansing yourself of the corruption is not a simple or quick task. It brings with it a lot of heat. Literally. Corrupted players will be highlighted on the map for bounty hunters to go hunt down. So, the risks for becoming corrupted seem to be quite high, and I'm sure it's a higher price than most people are willing to pay frequently. Since the choice of whether you get corrupted or not lies with the victim, who can choose whether or not to fight back at any time, it's risky to be the aggressor. Meaning most people will probably need good motivation before they just go on a rampage out in the woods. Simply killing for a few resources or just because you didn't like the way they looked at you at the supermarket, probably not going to happen. Open world PvP will probably happen more to control points of interest or to control important resources. If you're a player that wants to get your hands on a rare resource or make progress on a certain quest to progress your node, you'll likely need to come prepared for a fight, and you should probably work with your guild mates and your node mates so that you can be prepared. If you're running around by yourself all the time trying to do these things that are supposed to be done with friends or teammates, you might have a rough time. Now, for the small percentage of people that are still interested in griefing, the odds will quickly stack against them. As their corruption score gets higher and higher, they get the bounty hunters start tracking them down. Eventually, they won't have a choice but to fail. But that does bring me to my next point. Not all open world PvP is griefing. Some people will label any death that they get in the open world as a grief. That's inaccurate. Griefers continuously harass people to ruin their enjoyment of the game. Getting 1v1'd in the woods and losing the herbs you've gathered is unfortunate, but it's not a grief. And I would argue that instead of complaining about dying and getting on a forum to post about how bad the game is, maybe your time would be better spent analyzing yourself and what you did wrong to lose the fight and becoming a better player. Or perhaps maybe you go find a guild to join so you can gather with a group of friends that can help protect you. This is a massive multiplayer game after all, not a massive single player game. Finally, in his video, Lucky Ghost brought up past examples of his Lineage 2 days where the sweatiest guild on the servers would camp dungeons or points of interest and bar entry to anybody else, which is a real possibility. But assuming that the players have the tools available, it's another challenge to overcome. These situations will require more of that social interaction that we're all so afraid of. If there's a guild that's camping the best spots, that just means they've painted themselves a target. This is where your guild can look to build an alliance with other nearby guilds, or you can hire a mercenary guild that can help you fight them off, or you can work towards declaring war on that guild so that they have to divert their resources and they can't sit and camp in that spot all day as they have to prepare for war. If your guild is getting bullied off an area, or your teammates, your squad, whatever, that means that other guilds are probably experiencing the same thing. So they're going to be more than happy to work with you and help, band together to try and take out the sweaty guild. If your strategy is to just keep rushing headlong into a fight you can't win, maybe you don't deserve to get into that dungeon. Just saying. But this is where the politics and scheming of the game start to come into play. A new dungeon becomes available, it's highly contested. Go make a deal with your neighboring guilds. Hey, on Friday night, we'll do the dungeon, and you guys stand at the entrance and keep enemy guilds from getting in. Tomorrow night, you guys do the dungeon, and we'll stand watch. I mean, it's interactions like this that's going to make Ashes of Creation an interesting game in the long run. As many people have said before me, Ashes of Creation is not for everybody. If it's not for you, that's okay. Go log back into Final Fantasy XIV, go dance in Limsa Lominsa for 4 hours while you wait for your dungeon queue that you can finish while half asleep, and silently work with other players that might as well be bots. If you're interested in a different MMO experience where you need to socialize and work with other players to overcome actual challenges, then give Ashes of Creation a chance. You might be surprised how you feel about it. That's all I have. Thank you all for watching. Tell me how you feel about the PvP systems in the comments below. Did I allay any concerns you have? Do you have more concerns that I can try and address? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, consider subscribing. It does help the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.